What up, my freaks? RuinusInsight here, welcoming you to part 32 and the very last part of my Total War Warhammer 3 Elspeth von Draken Immortal Empires campaign. So I've decided to end this campaign with this final episode. I know some of you will be disappointed, but let's face it, it's been a pretty solidly complete campaign. We have our long victory, and the Empire's been pretty safe for a while. We've defeated pretty much every major threat to us, and with Morathi's fall, I think, her main stag gone, that was the next biggest threat remaining on the map, so it's not like she has a prayer either. I think we've also tried most of the things we wanted to try out, and frankly we were at this point closing in on domination victory, which is not super necessary, let's say. More importantly than all that, I think the interest just isn't here anymore, and rather than banish this campaign to languish on the Shadow Channel, I'd rather end it with a nice finale here. It's not like we won't be seeing the Empire again on the channel in the future, and you know, not getting to play as much with the likes of Gelt or Volkmar or Wolfheart just gives us a reason to run a different feeling Empire campaign in the future, especially with the changes that SFO is now, with its newest update, bringing to the likes of Volkmar with his rework, and Gelt as well. And hopefully Wolfheart will get some love at some point as well. Poor guy, still always feel bad for him as, I'd say, the least picked of the lords, but anyway, the story of Grand Admiral Zintler's shenanigans has to continue in a future Empire, campaign. And in fact, for this, we can change you to Grand Admiral Zintler. Anyway, for those unfamiliar with how I typically do my finales, they're a little different than normal episodes. This is where we begin the time skips, where I continue playing as normal off screen, doing the admin, moving everybody around, etc., diplomacy, but more or less only record the significant battles so that, you know, the episode isn't like 10 hours long, full of 9 hours of admin or something along those lines. I think it's probably a better way to do it that way, so there's not a horrendous amount of screen time wasted. Not entirely sure, but, you know, avoiding a bonkers amount of admin, especially towards the late game where the admin is pretty insane, seems like the way to go to me, even though it takes like a full day to record a finale. But anyway, the main things that we want to accomplish are some additional nice battles wherever we can find them. We've got Nagash for our very final battle, and then there's these two Nemesis crown dig sites. I don't know whether they actually work because Kastalton is currently holding the Nemesis crown, but they might, and if they do, we'll have Elspeth do them. We'll see. Either way, Nagash still stands, and the Fortress of Nagash will make a final nice battle for the Dominion over Death Magic, I think. Anyway, I'm gonna begin the time skips now, so see you guys in the next battle. Alrighty, and so we return with a pleasant surprise, a somewhat expected surprise, but a pleasant surprise nonetheless. Clan Angrund has decided to attack Arguelon, and we will honor our oath to defend them and declare war, and have declared war upon Clan Angrund, who in turn will turn to attack this little army. I was worried that they would never get the chance to play, but it looks like they will. 442 range, 137 armor-piercing missile strength on these Hawkland long rifles, as well as these piles of engineers. We'll see how well they do. Valiant defeat, according to this. It looks like grassland terrain, but there may be mountains, which may interfere with the firing lines of the Hawkland long rifles, which would be quite the problem against the dwarves. On the bright side, as the enemy has a relatively limited number of Slayer pirates, they are still a dwarven army and will be relatively slow, though I would get a kick out of facing off against a speedy Slayer pirate army like in the Malachi campaign. Anyway, this is looking like a pretty good fight, so away we go.
marvelous knowledge, our victory is certain.
Alrighty, here we go. I made this army just for fun, just to see what degree we could push the Hawkland long rifles to, and damn it, fun will be had. Look at that range. They have the same, just slightly more range than a grudge thrower, and obviously significantly more range than something like a flame cannon or a bolt thrower, or anything along those lines. We certainly outrange the enemy artillery here, and the enemy is going to suffer for it. They really shouldn't have attacked our allies, especially knowing that we were allied to them, and we had this army waiting for quite a while, specifically for this. Fortunately, all the other dwarves don't like Clan Angrund for breaking our treaties with us. Really shouldn't be an oath breaker. Anyway, Angrund, let's see how you do here. The poor units of Thunderers up on top of this hill are having a pretty darn bad day. The first one gets deleted. They try to move under the cover of the trees accidentally, I'm sure, but oh man. And how's our ammunition looking? Alright, that took like about 10, maybe to 15% of our ammunition to delete those units, but we do have to keep in mind that we do have a restock. We also have these guys in fairly large numbers, and our buffed up engineers hit pretty darn hard, 2.7k. Their damage is a little bit wasted on regular units, not single entities, but they can do quite a lot of damage to single entities. This was a shot from a single one of them, taking a massive amount of HP from this poor Slayer Lord. And if we get the rest of them to fire in the same manner, then they should be able to snipe the enemy lords and heroes quite quickly. Alright, get another few volleys in there and the enemy lord should drop. One more hit, I wager. 250 HP and down he goes, and these guys can keep kiting and annoying the enemy, all the while our Hawklanders continue to fire all the way from here. They may as well be artillery pieces to this point. If the campaign had gone longer, I would have probably replaced the 3 units that don't have, or is it 4, whatever, that don't have Hawkland scopes in this particular army to give them even more range, but it's completely unnecessary. Now, one of them has the Lichbone Pendant, giving them magical damage, and that particular unit is the only one attacking this Ghost Engineer. Down goes the Ghost Engineer, and we switch to the Ghost Thanes instead. It looks like the enemy army may be trying to wait for its reinforcements to arrive, but fortunately for it, its reinforcements are here. We have split the army such that 5 are firing on the damaged army, and 6 of the Hawklanders are firing on the new arrivals. We have positioned our Light Wizard here just in case we get rushed, all the while our engineers, all on their mechanical steeds, continue riding around, kiting and annoying the enemy. Perhaps I should have switched to the fire attacks. I think they might have a little bit of splash on them, and thus might be better for killing infantry, and then for single targets as compared to what we're doing here. But honestly, it doesn't really matter because the enemy army isn't a particular threat to those units. Going to reposition ourselves slightly, as it does look like the enemy grudge thrower is within range of us, and able to fire over the hill, which is something we admittedly cannot do. What we can do, though, is rip apart any enemy unit that we can sight with gusto. Oh, they were firing on the Ghost Thane. I was wondering why that shot looked fairly inaccurate. Alright, and these units are attempting to escape, but the engineers continue to kite them, and we've taken basically no damage whatsoever so far. One of the Hawklanders did get clipped by the enemy grudge throwers, but fortunately didn't lose any units at the current time. We pop a banishment on the enemy in the hopes of ripping that grudge thrower apart while it's still blocked by the hill, but it looks like the banishment is just not going to be enough, and so we will simply back off a little bit, forcing the grudge thrower into, well, not so much into range because we outrange it, but rather so that it crests the hill and we can actually fire upon it rather than it firing from a hull down position. A pretty good strategy, but well, if it's out of range, it can't do it. Alright, and the enemy continue moving forward, and this is absolutely disgusting. And keep in mind, this is only half of our units firing into this stack, while the other half are firing into the first stack, which has pretty much been destroyed at this point. It seems like the AI really just doesn't know what to do here. Most of the units that get close to us, or, well, close, nothing has really drawn close at this point, start moving towards us, get ripped apart. And we can make sure that any enemy units that are broken are completely shattered by chasing them down with our units of engineers. Iron Drake's hanging around here, but probably not for much longer, together with some Slayer pirates and, I don't know, Thunderers or something. It really doesn't matter because they're not going to be able to close the distance. This army looks to be in a little bit better shape. They do have Belegar leading them here after all, and once again with only half of our army firing upon them, maybe they can, well actually a third of our army firing upon them. Half of the Hawkland long rifles, but none of the engineers, which were contributing to the damage dealt there. They could probably kill off Belegar quite quickly by sniping him with that massive damage they've got. Oh man, and we're still so far away. And well, this is why we backed off, so that the Grudge Thrower had to get in range to where we can shoot it, and we quickly rip the artillery pieces apart. Crew doesn't matter nearly as much. Not that the enemy is liable to reach us, but just to make sure that they can't, we will also pop a net of Amantok upon these guys. Hammerers and Belegar and everybody else around here is stuck, and I would wager that the battle will very soon be ours. Ooh, looks like the enemy flame cannon nearly manages to get a volley out, but we'll retarget and obliterate it with our next volley. Can't really look at the battle from our own perspective because the enemy is so far away. It's kind of hard to see both us and the enemy as well. Another banishment, just for fun, just because we can, hardly need to, but why not? Belegar gets hit with a couple volleys, but he does have a shield, 23 ward save and 25% missiles, so takes a little bit more effort to bring him down. Is he just standing there? No, I think he was being, no, yeah, he was being staggered by the volleys from at least one of the units, by the looks of it. And with that, by the looks of it, the enemy is running out of morale. The enemy army will shatter, and the battle is ours with, I think, not a single loss taken, and the enemy never having come even close to us. Oh, a Dragon Slayer out here. Well, there was a Dragon Slayer out there anyway. It does feel a little bad to be killing off dwarfs, because, well, the Malachi campaign, and it hurts to lose fellow Dowie as well, considering they're our allies, lawfully. The Imperials, I mean. Anyway, Belegar, you've turned and now can block no shots, and thus a couple volleys into your back should probably bring you down. We are starting to run out of ammunition on a few of those units, but once again, do keep in mind that we do have reloads on all of these engineers who are running around. I just want to see Belegar drop, and then we'll end the battle. All right, you got the flame count? There we go. A bloody end for Belegar, and I don't believe we'll be seeing him again. These guys have switched to their flaming ammunition. Funnily enough, probably not the best idea against the Iron Drakes there, but a little bit of extra splash damage couldn't hurt. We're also going to get those Mercurial shots in there. And just to increase the damage slightly into these blobs. And the Mercurial shots are actually pretty decent when you can get into position. I may not like magic missiles generally, but they do penetrate through a fair few enemy units and can do a fair bit of damage. There we go. And just like so. And a couple more Mercurial shots, and anyway, the enemy will be run down by the engineers and by our long rifles. All right, well, there we go. I think we all always knew that this army, being a meme army, but this army was always going to make whoever faced it have a very, very bad day. The Hawkland long rifles effectively outranging artillery is pretty darn ridiculous when they have this many engineers buffing them up. And keep in mind that we have, I think, 1, 2, 3 of these engineers don't have Hawkland scopes, so we could even get another like 100 range or so on all these long rifles if we desired to do so. And several of the engineers don't have the levels to get triangulation, so there's even more damage to be had here should we desire it. We don't need it, because clearly if 2 stacks, Belagar's main stack and his probably second main stack, can't do anything at all to them, I doubt that anybody else can. So I'm glad that we got a fight out of this. Salvage those munitions. Let's see if anything else attacks us between these end turns or not, but I'd wager it would be unlikely. Blessed Dread destroyed, yada yada, enemy killed in battle, some other things all happening. Amateur discover, technology research, sure. Clan Angrund, dwarfen conflict. Hey, we actually completed it. That was the only quest we had. All quests completed. Yeah, sorry, Angrund. Looks like they are going to try to attack down here, but they will abandon Karak Azor and Karak Bufdar for it. Now, funnily enough, this army probably wouldn't do so well at taking territory. However, if the enemy is willing to fight outside of settlements, then let me just see here, you need master ballistics and you need triangulation. And out of curiosity, do the rest of you have mobility? Yes, you do. So, triangulation, machinist preparations, mercurial shot, restock, and not enough to get increased mobility, sadly. Whatever, it's not like it's super necessary or will change anything. I guess you can start moving through it. Alright, like so. And that guy's only there because he has Hawkland scopes, and no more Hawkland scopes, oh well.
For the Empire!
Hardly matters. What level are you, sir? You're level 13, but we have pistol core maxed out. Ooh, what we don't have is ballistics instructor, more range. I just need one more point on that. Damn, you know what I should have done? I should have saved the point, but oh well, not a big deal. You can for now have ballistics calibration to give the reload skill to all of these guys. Now, let's see if these guys are willing to fight outside the settlement. I'd be willing to fight again with this army. It's pretty darn fun. Yes, they will. Do they have Shield Wall of Gromrel? I guess we'll find out. We'll do 2 battles. Oh, why the heck not? Go for it. Oh, that poor lord. Wow, I don't think he even knew what hit him. That's just way too many bullets. Yeah, when the entire army focuses a single unit down, it's pretty darn ridiculous. I mean, it's pretty darn ridiculous even when they all separate their fire at different enemies, but yeah. Anyway, the enemy doesn't have 2 armies unlike the previous battle, so I would wager that this one's gonna go a lot quicker. The reinforcements are coming in 40 seconds, and we'll position ourselves up on this hill with 1 unit hopefully able to fire over the other. 5 seconds until the enemies arrive and the volleys can start. There we go. First enemy unit to get targeted gets pretty much deleted, and that's a unit of Longbeards losing almost all their HP. Mercurial shots coming in, and I like this sort of wave-like effect that they have. It looks pretty neat. There we go. Nice little railgun to sort of... Ooh, I wonder how those would look together with the sort of railgun-like effect of the Medusa, although I guess it's hard to get a Dark Elven ally. Banishment comes down just because we have it, and frankly, the enemy will never, ever be able to reach this hill. So we don't really need to do a net of am and talk the enemy down, even though we can and probably will, just because. Otherwise, it feels like a waste. And there we go, the enemy is stopped in their tracks with a net of Ammontok while the gunners continue firing. The enemy still has, well, they're just heading down the mountain here, and the balance of power has already shifted to about 85% in our favor. A few more volleys into this big blob, and I'd wager the enemy will be done for. Man, this must be so frustrating. What do you even do? There's really nothing you can do in this particular situation. And especially with the Dwarven army being so darn slow, there's just no way they can get to us. Even if they were to properly separate their entire army away from each other. And we weren't able to quite focus enemy units down, they'd still take too long to get to us. Anyway, a couple more volleys, and it looks like with that, the enemy army will shatter. All those units are dropping with, well, they almost made it down the hill, though of course they still had to cross the valley and get up this hill to get to us. 'Twas never gonna happen. Well done to this army, and, well, let's say an unsurprising result. You know what? Coming off of that, I think it's actually pretty okay that this army, never got the chance to fight a lot of battles on screen, because every single battle this army fights would have gone exactly the same way. There's really nothing that the AI could throw at us that would be a threat to this, outside of multiple stacks. It's just a fact. It's like having a Skaven army with all Warplug Jezzails and Warlock Engineers. Maybe a shootout between those two would be interesting, but it certainly wouldn't last very long. Well, it depends on if the Jezzails have a stock. If they have stock, and then these guys are screwed. But anyway, salvage munitions. I guess we could have, well, actually, no, we didn't lose a unit, did we? I don't think so. No, we didn't lose a unit. How would we have lost a unit? Take Karakazor with the, you don't have Siege Attacker in this army because you're not on a tank. Well, that's a shame, buddy, that's a shame. But you do have Ballistics Instructor, so more range for these guys. Huh, wait, 442? It was already at 442. Wait. Are you telling me that that doesn't work? That's concerning. I was specifically going through this line specifically for Ballistics Instructor for... Oh, it's all allies in... Oh, okay, it's on the map. It's on the map. It does work. It's just... Okay, I panicked there for a little bit. It does work. It's just... you can't see it on the overworld. Anyway. Goldtooth. I don't know where he went. Damn, I wanted Gelt to have a nice fight. Did he... There he is. We can't block his army, unfortunately, and I fear that Gelt might not be able to reach him, but let's give it a try. Honestly, I'd rather chase him down and fight him, because I don't think Gelt is liable to get another battle against anybody, and he does deserve his own finale. Salvage munitions. How close are... I lied. I lied, he's in range of Goldtooth. Well, that's just fantastic. Another battle this turn, I guess. So let's see what we're missing. Strength of Hardship. I mean, I guess we could get Pistol Core. Tanks and stuff. This for battle doesn't do anything for us. I'm just taking a look at what other options we have. We have Mighty Forge. We actually do want Emperor's Finest for these 3 units and Pistol Core for these 3 units. There's not a lot of either, but on the other hand, Gelt's basically maxed out anyway, other than a few spells. We're gonna get you Hardened Shot because I think it's more worthwhile than the melee troops, as they don't really need to do damage, they just need to hold the line, and similarly here. They can hold the line already. Let's get you Pistol Core, and then we'll get Emperor's Finest after. Well, if we ever make it that far. Mentor for you, sir. And you have Gunsight and Always Ready maxed out already. Oh, so you're about as good as you're liable to be. Well, that's swell for you. You don't need Bandolier, I guess get her to hit, and then what about you? You're probably in the same position as we probably recruited you to at the same time. Baroness Time Warp, Banishment, and Light of Battle and Shem's Burning Gaze completely maxes out the magics. And Gelty. Finish off Goldtooth. No Slaneshi giggle for him. Yeah, it'll be an easy battle, but it'll be Gelt's finale fight and in his current form, and we gotta knock Goldtooth out, so it does make sense. Away we go. Alrighty, here we go. Greasus has been caught, and it's time to put him down for good. And this is why I wanted the Royal Pegasus Knight a unit in with Gelt. They do look like his bodyguard, considering they have Pegasi as well, and they got magical damage on top of that. Plus, we need something to potentially guard our Thunder Barges, part of the Air Force here, in case an enemy were to bring a decent pile of range units. Anyway, looks like there's some ogres hanging out on top of that hill, and we're gonna take shots at them with our Luminarchs and with our steam tanks. The Luminarchs probably wasting their shots a little bit, as a single shot only kills possibly one ogre. I suppose it can penetrate through several, but yeah. Kind of wasted there, but Greasus is unfortunately not yet in range, so we'll have to deal with it as we are. Greasus is hanging around out here. We do hit him with a final transmutation, just to do a little bit of damage, maybe 15% of his HP there. While it looks like he's trying to get around us, maybe to use this hill, so we're going to reposition ourselves. May even want to perhaps not have the Ironsides do all the work. Maybe even allow them not to fire for a little bit, as the tanks and the Luminarchs want to play. And the Thunder Barges, since I guess they're new, sort of, in this particular army, but I do think that they work nicely with it. Anyway, we're going to move the Thunder Barges forward, as we do want them to spot the enemy. In the meantime, we're going to have Gelt and his Royal Pegasus Knights land upon some enemy Gorgers, and let's see. Do a little bit of damage, nothing crazy. We do have to be careful with the Royal Pegasus Knights, as they are reasonably fragile, let's say, and damn, they still look fairly tiny compared to the Gorgers, but they should be able to defeat a single unit of Gorgers without too much trouble, especially as they are anti-large, and they do have Gelt helping them out. A Glittering Robe gives them 69 bonus armor, putting them up to 184, also nice. Gelt is helping out in the fight a little bit, and dropping a Searing Doom upon a pile of Noblars, who lose more than half of their HP and are going to start booking it on out of there. Greasy has still not reached our main army, and the Thunder Barges are harassing his forces from overhead, as he has no real anti-air and can't really do anything about this. He is moving quite nicely, though. He is avoiding a lot of our shots because the Luminarchs can't target him due to the hill, but it looks like he should be targetable shortly. Alright, Iron Guts moving in. We're going to reposition our infantry, both range and melee, alike, as the Luminarchs hopefully start targeting the big boy. And some of the Iron Guts will make their way forward, ignoring the tank by the looks of it, only to charge in towards the Grundle's defenders here, but the Grundle's defenders and the Eldred's Guard are very heavily armored, and should be able to hold the line quite well. And the same with the tanks, of course. They can simply use their mass to keep the enemy from moving in. Yeah, Greasy moved in, and we weren't quite really able to hit him with the Luminarchs, unfortunately, but not a big deal. It's all good. Gelt is moving back into the fray. The Royal Pegasus Knights, having lost a few of their number, or a couple of their number, I should say, to the Gorgers, are going to move into support, but frankly, Greasus's army is already so badly hurt that there's not really much left in it. And the final transmutation to come down will probably hurt Greasy quite a bit, and the same with all the units around him. He's losing HP rapidly, will break, and will run, and the tanks will run him down. Now that it looks like the tanks were sufficient to do all this, we can get a few shots off with our range units, Luminarchs as well as the Ironsides. If they can actually find a... oh, down goes Greasy. If they can actually find a firing solution. Yeah, these kills are not ideal for this army, admittedly, but the enemy army is just not strong enough to deal with this one. And, Gorgers have avoided those two tanks to go specifically for this tank. I wonder why. Not that it matters over much. The Amethyst Ironsides will gun them down. A few more moving in. Having avoided a few of our, or having avoided being killed by the Royal Pegasus Knights, but will simply be killed by the Thunder Barges from up on high. And there we go. With that, the battle is ours. A very decisive victory. And down goes Goldtooth, the Lord and the faction alike. Alright, there we go. Pretty darn minimal losses there, two of which were to Gelt's personal guard of Royal Pegasus and Knights by the Gorgers, and actually one by the Gorgers and one by the Nobbler Trappers by the looks of it. So good job to those little guys. One of those daggers managed to find their mark. Wasn't an ideal sort of terrain for this kind of army, as we had a little bit of a difficult time firing over the hills and stuff, but still did just fine. We are going to, I guess, salvage munitions. It doesn't really matter what we do. And I don't imagine that Goldtooth will be getting up again. Karakazorn is their last territory, and then we'll head on over there. I don't imagine we'll have to deal with them with Gelt himself, but I guess we'll see. Ooh, what the heck is going on here? You sure you want a march stance, buddy? Right beside Boris Ursus? Well, I guess we have the opportunity to check. Man, we're getting all the final battles for every army in one turn, well, except Elspeth. But Elspeth looks like she's in range of the Nemesis crown places anyway, so go figure. And Karl is in range of Morathi. Wow, this is like the best turn ever. Damn. I'm surprised. I thought I was going to have to work really hard to get a final battle for basically as many lords as I could, but it looks like we're essentially getting it to happen almost all of them in the same turn, which is just fantastic. Fantastic. I guess we'll start with you. I mean, it doesn't really matter. We got lots and lots of options this time around. Let's level you up and then let's get on into it. You, sir. War wagons and artillery pieces, and that's you have pistol corps and imperial gunnery. Mighty Forge does help out the regular war wagons. We need not taste of battle nor strength of hardship. You presumably have your tank. Yes, you do. Just had to double check that. I mean, I guess we could start moving towards extra powder. We could still buff the rest of the units nearby. Is it worth more than Mighty Forge? I guess we'll put 1 point in Mighty Forge. I mean, these things do get caught occasionally. I'm not entirely sure that the second point is worth it, but a single point for 7% ward save is pretty solid, I'd say. Head to extra powder, though once again, I'm frankly doubtful that we'll ever need it. Okay, you only need 1 point to level up. I'm just seeing whether these guys actually have any points that are worth our time. Ah, you have Gunsight, alright. You can get Gunsight and Ever Ready, and then you... whatever you are missing in terms of magics. I guess bonus time, warp, and banishment. Alright, looks good to me. It's battle number, I don't know, 3? We've already... Yeah, these, like I said, finales usually take a full day to record, so I can't really do anything else. Gotta finish it up while Sunday's still... Yeah, although I guess I'll be posting this on Monday. But anyway, doesn't matter. Kill. I don't know why this guy... does. Huh? Boris declined to reinforce. I mean, that's... great, but what a little scumbag. What? Are you serious, Boris? Okay, I mean, it'll give us a better fight, but still, what a little scumbag. After all we did for him.
Be thankful for my unrivaled leadership, for we shall emerge victorious.
Alrighty, here we go. One more round to slow the enemy down, and the Black Orcs will get hit with a massive volley from those Amethyst Outriders. And damn, that effect looks really cool. I take it that it changes slightly when you get that explosion radius increase upgrade to these guys. You're gonna take a couple shots from the enemy rock lobber, but that's all right. We can sacrifice a few of them to get a few more volleys into the enemy Black Orcs and then back off. Looks like the enemy Lord is annoyed and will rush towards our Outriders, who will take about 40% of his HP, and then he will start taking monstrous impacts from those cannons. With a monstrous impact, he's down to 33 speed, and if we can hit him a little bit more, well, I guess we should actually just be able to bring him down. We don't even need to slow him any further. He's sufficiently slow. By which I mean he's as slow as he can be because he's dead. Anyway, Black Orcs, Biggins, etc. are moving forward, and we're going to kite them, or continue kiting them, with our units of Amethyst Outriders. The enemy is not yet really in range of our artillery pieces, with the exception of our mortars. The mortars working on the enemy Goblin Rock Lobbers back here so that they can leave our Outriders alone. A unit of Squig Hoppers, or Squig Herd, just regular Squig Herd, attempted to chase our Outriders, but A, it would have never caught them, and B, they were going to get destroyed anyway. Alright, and the Black Orcs very slowly moving towards us under disorientation alone, 23 speed. If we stack another ability, they're gonna go down to like 5 or something silly. Oh, this army. And all of this, they have to travel all the way out here. This is an ideal situation. A fairly large map and a clear line of sight for all the units to fire down upon the enemy here. Working quite well. Anyway, enemy continue attempting to reach those Outriders with those Amethyst grenades, but that is not going to happen pretty clearly. And frankly, I don't think any of them are going to reach us. I'm not even sure they're going to get to suppression range or ice guard range. And by suppression range, I mean Hellblaster volley gun range. They're already far too slow. Even the trolls get slowed down to 25 move speed. Mortars keep firing as well, of course, and the enemy artillery are out of there. The rogue idol attempted to give chase to our grenade launchers here, but that was a complete waste of time, as it was never going to catch them. These Outriders continue to do great work, focusing down a rogue idol now, and between the cannons firing upon it, and 3 speed. 3... Oh no, the poor rogue idol, it basically can't move. Huh. I wonder if it would be 0 speed if we get one more speed reduction on it. Oh, poor thing. I feel sad for it. Poor little guy. You're done for. Couple more cannon shots, maybe one more volley from the Outriders. Now they're going to focus down the Black Orcs instead, while the Rogue Idol drops in the background. And with that, the battle switches to shifts to about 90% in our favor. Time to switch to the Giant now, down to 4 speed after disorientation and monstrous impact. Grenades come down on the Black Orcs and the Biggins. The Giant can't move. It's so slow it can barely take a single step and will instead turn and run. But even that it cannot do, as it will collapse in a hail of gunfire and the enemy army will be destroyed. Oh, when this army works, it is absolutely obnoxious. It is just obnoxious. Oh, frickin' 3 speed. Man. When I play Kislev, I'm gonna remake this army in Kislevite fashion, borrow some Imperial units that have the slowdown capabilities, but also combine that with the Ice Sheet from the Lure of Ice, slowing the enemy down even further in blobs. Glorious. Anyway, a little bit of chasing to do, but off screen. No need to even do that. Alright, there we go, very nice. You know, when the terrain favors this army, or at the very least when the terrain doesn't completely screw this army over, it's a really, really nasty army, just because the enemy is so slow, and they never even reached the range of the Hellblaster volley guns or Ice Guard, so they would have moved even slower as soon as they got there, but they had a long way to travel under artillery fire to get there, and alas for them, that was not going to happen. Anyway, very nice, yeah, you're not like a named lure, I mean, you know what I mean. Anyway, praise Sigmar, great job to your army. It's a particularly nasty one. Banner of Eternal Flame, and you did knock out Tamarkan after all, though it was dangerous to do so. You are now good, and I don't imagine you'll get another battle. Grimgor looks to be on the back foot as well, judging by the fact that these guys didn't lose their armies here. Most likely Grimgor lost his own armies. He is moving this way, so maybe we can get him into a fight with Gelt, or possibly Ulrich Puttkamer, though we shall have to see if his faction doesn't die by the time we get there. And not that I'm going to prioritize that in particular. We have Temple of Skulls rather is sparsely defended, so Helmet, that's not worth your time. We do still have Elspeth, and we do have Morathi once again versus Karl Franz, so I think that's the one that will do. Let's see. Let's quickly assign you some skill points. Do we have anything missing? So you have tanks, Reiksguard, and great swords. You're missing Mighty Forge for your tanks. You don't need Sharpshooter. And yeah, 3 and 3. Okay, got what you need there. Mentor, I guess. Get you Deadly Blade. Could get you really anything. Well, you know what? Nonetheless, Mentor. It's not needed, it's just whatever. Alright, Dwellers Below. We still don't have Shield of Thorns and stuff, but yeah, might as well. It's a good spell. It's a very good spell. And get an Emergency Flesh to Stone. We haven't really needed Shield of Thorns. It's also a great spell. And I probably should get it, to be perfectly honest, but yeah, I'm not super concerned. You can have Righteous Fury, sir. This is the Warrior Priest variant that is only for him and not for the Flagellants and the army like the Archlector has. You can get Inviolable. No, get Augury. No. Augury doesn't matter because most of Karl's army is unbreakable. Karl is unbreakable. His entire line of Karobergs, including the Rose's Thorns, is unbreakable. And so are his tanks. His Reiksguard, sadly, are not. But oh well. Actually, be nice if Karl gave unbreakable to his tanks. Anyway, Simon Gruber. Anything here? Doesn't look like it. I think you're good. In the sense that we got the good stuff. Get you more Deadly Blade. Frankly, once again, I don't particularly like the captains, so not a big deal. You are on your Pegasus. Originally... I mean, yeah, you could just land on the Pegasus. Just stay on foot or on the ground and lead the Reiksguard forward. Anyway, that looks good to me, Karl. Versus Morathi. Is this a minor settlement? I do believe it is. Alright. That'll make it a little bit different. It'll be a little bit of an advantage for Morathi's Shades and Range units. The Witch Elves versus the Rose's Thorns and the other Karobergs is probably not going to go well for them, however. At least, I would imagine. Anyway, once more into the breach. I'm gonna save this just in case I get a crash, though. It's happened in finales before. And usually it's not a big deal, because you can just, I don't know, reload to the other turn. I mean, you guys... Well, those who have watched other campaigns have probably noticed it happen a couple of times because I mention it. But when you have a big turn like this, when you fight so many battles, going back over and refighting them would be unfortunate. Though I suppose a lot of them were auto-resolvable. Not all of them, though. Certainly not the Belagar attack and stuff. But anyway, it should be fun. Go. Well, the Empire does a lot more than endure, good sir. Anyway, here we go. Morathi stands against us, and we're going to hopefully get a nice big final battle for Karl. We're going to start it off with a little bit of magical support, though. Dwellers Below come down upon piles of enemy units hiding behind that barricade. If they're going to be so cowardly, we may as well hit that blob. 3 units basically decimated in that manner. Karl will head towards Morathi to attempt to duel her in the air, and, well, no attempt about it. Pretty successfully, I'm sure, as he hits way harder than she does. And then he outstats her without Galmaraz. And away we go. Alright, Galmaraz active. Morathi will call a little bit of help, but Karl hits for 1.1k, sunders armor, magical damage, and is unbreakable. Morathi has a lot of healing available to her, including regeneration, but is already down to about half HP. She doesn't have the melee defense to not take hits, and thus her HP will drop extremely quickly. Down to 800 HP already, and she'll book it on out of there, leaving the Manticore to cover her retreat, while the rest of our army tries to move on in. We gotta break that barricade down. I attempted to have our steam tanks gun it down, but unfortunately this hill actually protected the barricade. So we're gonna try to have our tanks sort of bulldoze it. And the enemy will be having none of it, sending out some units of witch elves and whatever else they've got back there, while dropping range shots upon us here. Gotta bring down that barricade ASAP rather. It's down to about half of its HP at 6,000. And the enemy is streaming in with more and more piles of units. On the right flank, we're getting ready to send in our Reichsguard, who are moving into position. We'll go up this ramp, and on the left flank, same thing. These guys are moving into position to move up this one, but the main battle, or the main portion of the battle, will be decided here. A little bit more magical support, mostly because we haven't really used the Lore of Life much in terms of dealing damage. The Dwellers Below and Awakening of the Wood are fantastic spells, but mostly we've been using these guys to heal. And since this darn barricade is in our way, we may as well have dealt a little bit of damage to the enemy with magic. Anyway, with that, the barricade finally is rent asunder, and our steam tanks will steam their way through the enemy. And the great swords can move as well. The Awakening of the Wood will hopefully slow the enemy down, and it looks like a decent pile of the enemy units that attempted to block us off will fail here. Lovely. Steam tanks are unstopped, and it looks like our Reichsguard are ready to move on in. Some Witch Elves will attempt to block their way, and it looks like Morathi has come back and has hit us with a Melkot's Mystifying Miasma. Karl will give chase to her once more, and I'm sure we'll bring her down with decent ease. This will stop or at least slow down the charge. Interesting use of Melkots there. And yeah, it means that there's not enough speed, acceleration, combined with the amount of mass that we have in the Reichsguard to push through the Witch Elves, which will allow them to hit us. Unfortunately, Witch Elves have poor armor piercing, even though they are very high damage dealing, and the Reichsguard should be able to rip them apart without trouble. And thereafter, charge on through. The Witch Elves are down to 30% of their HP. We can find more enemy units back here to lend our support. Steam tanks are working on an enemy Hydra and the enemy Manticore, while the Great Swords continue to make their way forth. We haven't had nearly as much, let's say, spotlight on the Great Swords outside of Karl's army as an Imperial campaign normally might. So it's great that Karl can lead them into the battle, especially the Karlbergs. Alright, and those steam tanks won't leave that poor War Hydra alone. And here we go, more Great Swords moving in. We gotta crush those Shades and Dark Shards between these two units. They'll work well together, or so well together, I should say. And there we go, with no more Melkots, the enemy is getting sent flying by our Reichsguard charging, and y'all dead. I don't think they're getting up from that. Alright, how are we doing back here? The Hydra is nearly done for, but we'll probably give chase to it with our tanks, while our Empire Captain tries to duel the enemy Master. Master's on a chariot, but how's the stats comparison? Well, I feel like the stats comparisons are once again deceptive. The Empire Captains don't tend to really do all that well in fighting, in my experience, but that's all right. We got Great Swords to do fighting anyway. And against Dread Spears, they should very much come out ahead. We're going to keep on healing them. They have been taking a lot of hits from enemy range attacks and Melkoths from Morathi, as well as a few other things, and they are certainly damaged at this point. They're down to about half HP, all told. The enemy's rightmost flank has pretty much collapsed at this point, crushed between the Reiksguard and the Karlberg Great Swords. I think Morathi is finally gone for good. I think she routed and rallied like 3 times before Karl finally managed to bring her down for good. Out on the left flank, the other Reiksguard's units are doing the same exact thing, chasing down enemy range units with little trouble, and especially since the enemy committed most of its melee to fighting our own melee. And the melee are still very much in a brawl. Another Awakening of the Woods comes down, and Witch Elves move in with Dark Riders to support those Dread Spears. And I see some Bleak Swords in here as well. But the Karlberg should definitely be superior to this pile of enemy infantry. Without Executioners and without Black Guard of Nagash, the Karlbergs don't really fear anything that the enemy has brought here. Just too heavily armored. And yeah, they're at 142 armor, not too bad, and that's without buffs. Very, very solid. They're almost like Chaos Warriors or Chosen, and they're unbreakable as well because they're the Regiment of Renown, or not Regiment of Renown, the Elector Count variant. Anyway, with that, Morathi's army will break, and the battle will be ours. Everybody got a chance to play in this particular battle, and I think it was a pretty solid send-off for this army. Alright, very nice indeed. A pretty solid defense from Morathi's stack. Saw us get decent amounts of kills on both the Reiksguard and the Great Swords and the tanks. Everybody did well. Lots of kills on our Jade Wizard as well. And Karl got to knock out the enemy Lord, plus the Manticore, and did an assortment of damage to lots of different things. Well done, everybody, and that'll be a decent final battle for you, sir. Occupy. I guess I could have sacked it, but it really doesn't matter anymore. Yeah, and especially now that our armies are actually down here, would you please claim Arnheim? Do we have to sack it for you? Are you capable of doing something on your own? And where the heck are these guys going? Where are they going? Are they just abandoning their territory? I have no idea. Well, Andreas Meyer is nearby, so he can continue shadowing these Black Arcs, and if they try to attack us here, I guess he can set out to sea and then kill them there. In fact, make sure you stay a little bit ahead of them. Not that, well, that matters all that much either. Anyway, in terms of what other battles we got this turn, I think it's just the one. Elspeth, you have reached the Crown Dig Sites. Let's see if they work. Ooh, hello. You're level 50, sir, meaning you get Mentor, and all your other points are irrelevant because we maxed everything out. So Specialist, and I guess Block Armor. Alright, does this work? Moment of truth. I haven't even tried these, so I don't know what the heck this does. It does work. Gives us an army. Now, wow, that's a lot of Arachnaroks. And a lot of... Wow, that's a solid army. Damn, wait. Didn't this appear relatively early in the game? Does this army get more powerful, or were we supposed to defeat this army on, like, turn 20 or something? Because that's silly. It's a solid stack, though. Honestly, if Nagash's didn't exist or didn't work, this would be a great fight for Elspeth's finale. Minus the fact that the enemy is probably going to struggle a little bit due to the fact that this is an ambush, but nonetheless, should be a fun time. Away we go once more, and we'll see whether the Nemesis Crown thing works. And maybe we'll pick it up for Elspeth just because we can. Alright, here we go. This one's going to go very quick because, well, it's an ambush and it's Elspeth's army, but I don't know how exactly it's going to look because it is well, of Elspeth's issue with cinematics. Now, the enemy has activated its ability. They're using the Nemesis Crown itself to activate the Nemesis Crown bombardment, which will drop a bunch of shards, by the looks of it, upon these Outriders. This is probably going to destroy, or at the very least heavily damage, the Outrider unit. Once again, Elspeth's army can only be used in cinematics when I don't control it, other than Elspeth herself, so these guys will just have to deal with it. Giant pile of monsters moving forward. Elspeth's going to take that dragon laser to one of the enemy Arachnaroks. The enemy units of infantry have already collapsed down here, and it looks like the giants and the spiders and the rogue idols are in a big old convoy attempting to escape the battle. That said, they're losing HP very, very rapidly here, and are heading towards the land ships here. Alright. The Amethyst land ships, I should say. But yeah, they're not even gonna try here. Oh, and it, I guess, well, this was them trying. Rogue Idol collapses, the enemy army gets ripped apart and shatters. Both literally and figuratively. And there we go. With that, the battle is ours. Our Outriders got kind of wrecked by that army ability, but otherwise little to no damage to our army, unsurprisingly. I do wish that these guys would have tried to at least charge our gun line up here. I know that they would have failed, but they should have tried. Alright, there we go. A little bit of damage to one of our units of Outriders and one of our land ships, becoming Morr to be specific, but otherwise we were more or less just fine. The funny thing is about these ambushes is that they're oftentimes an actual disadvantage to this army, because we want as much distance between us and the enemy as possible to hammer them with artillery and with gunfire for as long as possible. But in ambushes, because the AI has been programmed to, for some reason, ignore fights and just run towards the end of the ambush, I still think it's just crazy design that they need to completely redo. It makes it so that we kind of have to deploy close to the enemy to kill them lest they all just run away, which is disadvantageous for an army like this. But anyway, not a big deal. Decent work for everybody here. Praise Sigmar for a second. And do we get a reward for this? Do we actually... we can still keep the Nemesis Crown, it's funny. The timeless blackened power of the Nemesis Crown now rests in your hands, awaiting a choice that may impact the course of destiny and the fate of the entire world. You could seal the crown away so that its evil may never threaten the world again, but of course such power is always begging to be exercised. Keep the crown for yourself. Diplomatic relations -20 with all factions, +30 with Empire. Hit points +10%. Ability Nemesis Crown gives us a bombardment. Might as well have it for the battle at Nagash. Why not? And Corruption of the Crown gives us a Mortis engine effect when in melee. I guess we'll have to land among the rats. And missile strength +5 and weapon strength +5. So even more missile strength is particularly nice. Yeah, take the crown, why not? The crown's influence is legendary. Under your command, its power will shape the fate of the world. Why not? Why not? The bearer of the Nemesis Crown has succumbed to the wounds of battle, and now the ancient artifact rests upon a new brow. As one malevolent power lies defeated, another far more dangerous one, Elspeth von Draken of Wissenland and Nuln, arises to take its place. Why not? Just pretend we sealed it away. I just wanna put it in. Huh. I just want to put it in. Yeah. I just want to make use of the crown and Nagash is there. But Slaanesh has taken me over. But anyway, yeah, Castalton has it as well. What the heck? Are these all fake crowns? Do you have like 50? Wait. And this thing is still... Are you telling me we could get multiple crowns? Probably not on the same lord. Huh, interesting. Well, either way. I guess I have to knock this little army out next turn. Not that it's any kind of threat. Oh. It is at war with us. Watch it take a Lorelorn forest, because there's basically... Nah, it can't reach Lorelorn. It can reach Salzenmund, but Salzenmund still has its garrison. Ah, sucks to be you. Oh, it can reach Krudenwald. Not that we care. Well, whatever. I'm not entirely sure that the army can move. Number of battles to win until the next Nemesis Crown level 4. Number of turns to win a battle before the Nemesis Crown is lost. Oh. Huh, that's kind of a problem. So basically what we have to do is we have to win a battle and then immediately teleport to Nagashazar and make sure that we fight the final battle as well. Neat. Next level gives us upkeep reduction on all units in army, still corruption of the crown +1, up to 10% missile increase, missile damage, whatever. Yeah, nice. Man. Now I want to play a campaign where we have both the Nemesis Crown and the Sword of Cain at the same time, and get like -3,000 diplomatic relations with everybody, but kill everybody. Save it for Tyrion. I don't know. Anyway, let's see. I think this gives us the time to get another time skip as well. This turn has certainly run its course with these 6 big battles that we managed to get. A few more turns, I imagine, and then we'll just do the final battles of the campaign. Belegar's already broken. This is his only army remaining, and it's half a stack. And yeah, should probably start traveling to Nagashazar. Unfortunately, we have built the travel-y thingy. We do have 2 turns until the cooldown, so we may want to fight again within that time, but we should, I think, be able to reach Nagashazar before the crown disappears. Twould be swell. Twould be swell. Anyway, here comes the skip. Alrighty, and we're back. We continue to advance over where the Cult of Pleasure is, obviously trading territory to our elven allies, trading from the Dark Elves to the High Elves, the territories that we don't need. I've probably done a lot less admin than previously, as it is no longer necessary, as we will be ending the campaign in the next couple of turns, correct? Bufdar is the last territory remaining to Clan Angrund, as, Belegar lost both his armies to this nonsense army, and hilariously so. We also have destroyed Goldtooth and are moving towards his destruction of Grimgor. He looks like he has 3 armies remaining to him, or maybe 4, but I'm not sure that this one will survive the onset of dwarfs who are heading towards his faction as well. Village is pretty much done. I mean, pretty much everybody is pretty much done. So, let's see what we got in terms of fights. Gelt has another one, and, well, let's say we didn't get enough of a challenge of fighting Goldtooth, so Grimgor. And Grimgor is a good option. He's got a Wa, he's got a stack, he's got a settlement, and he's got 2 reinforcing full stacks here that would probably at least try to attack us after he's dead. So, that would be a challenge, I'm sure. And then over here, I was wondering whether we would be able to get a final battle for Admiral Meyer, and it looks like 3 Black Arcs are sort of hanging out together. And, I mean, we've proven that he can sink 2 Black Arcs at once. Can he sink 3? Oh, 4 would be even better, but, yeah. Anyway, those are going to be their sort of finales, and Elspeth is going to now start moving to Nagashazar. I mean, obviously we could keep looking for battles forever, but once again, most of the enemy factions, if we take a look at the balance of power, we're number 1, ally number 2, soon to be ally number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all allies. Grimgor is the next strongest, and he's about to lose all his armies. So then it's Bordlow, Cult of Pleasure, which, even though it says they're rank 10, they're really not. Or, I mean, they are, but they basically have nothing left. We destroyed all of their armies, Morathi's main stacks. Her Black Arcs are about to die. Maybe the balance of power considers the Black Arcs to be more powerful than they are? I don't know. But everybody else here is an ally, pretty much, and there aren't all that many factions left on the map. So, in that light, let's start with Gelt, shall we? Or actually, wait. I actually want to try something. If we do this, and go to the Nemesis Crown site again, it's another one. You know, we're not going to bother fighting this. Yeah, it's some rogue idols and we could gun them down, but it's basically the same exact battle. It's also an ambush, and it'll go the exact same way and that the other battle did go. So yeah, we just gun all of this down. Not worth our time, I think. What I want to test here is this. Heal up. I would like to see... Keep the Nemesis crown and use its power. So it just says... It's basically the same thing. It does nothing? I think that this does nothing. Take the crown. It doesn't double up on it, I take it. No. Alright, I don't know why there were two dig sites, both of which offered it to us. But anyway, we'll spend a turn healing, and then next turn we will travel to... Okay, the Mad Howl is destroyed. Great for... Well, not so great for them, but yeah. We'll spend the turn healing. Next turn we will go to... Ruin's End, where we have built a garden of Morr, and then take a few turns to travel to Nagash. I've also wanted to wait till we maxed out, as some of you suggested in the comments, the Amethyst Armory. So maxed out, and full complement of Amethyst Artillery, 3 of each kind. So we'll have that for the final battle at Nagashazar, or hopefully outside Nagashazar. I'm hoping they're willing to fight us outside the settlement for an epic field battle, especially considering the a replay wonkiness with Elspeth's particular army. Anyway, let's do Gelt's battle, shall we? Gelty boy.
The Empire. I am the Supreme Patriarch.
Alright, he says he's in Ascent, but I think he's feeling guilty. I'm so freaking stupid. Alrighty, here we go for the Empire indeed, and I'm hoping we can get a nice and proper fight out of this. Lots of enemies here with Grimgor himself, especially as the battle against Goldtooth left something to be desired. I mean, who was Greasus anyway to think that he could master gold in the way that Balthazar Gelt has? Man, I was just imagining Gelt, or just, I guess, a gold wizard in general, just like causing Greasus's teeth to explode into his brain or something like that. Scary thought. Or anybody with fillings or anything like that, I guess. Anyway, looks like the enemy will try to charge some boy chariots towards us, charging up those Luminarchs and knocking down a chariot with each shot. Lovely. Yeah, gotta love watching their effects. Unfortunately, the map is a little bit dark, but if the enemy does come here, we do have our infantry line in the light, at least. Keep on firing Luminarchs as best you can. Grimgor is unfortunately a little bit too far, but was smartly guarding this unit of rock lobbers. I didn't see him because he was behind the hill, and sent the Pegasus Knights to kill the rock lobbers, only for Grimgor to quickly knock 2 of them out. And they're going to book it on out of there while we deal with the rest of his forces. Of course, the battle is only beginning, though we are absolutely causing havoc in the enemy lines. Gelt has used Gehenna's Golden Hounds, the Thunder Barge flying overhead is also causing absolute mayhem, and the enemy is nowhere near to reaching our lines. However, well, it looks like some Boar Boys will make it through, but they're going to charge right into those Eldred's Guard with 125 armor. And on top of that, the charge reflection and ward save buff from the Luminarch. All told, pretty darn nice, and we have our steam tanks guarding this flank now as well, so good luck getting through the pile of steam tanks. And there we go, all of course, while our Thunder Barges continue to harass you. But anyway, before I interrupted myself, more reinforcements are coming. So this battle has just begun, and Grimgor is still very much on the field. Our steam tanks continue to sort of run back and forth along the enemy lines as they attempt to make their way forward. Luminarchs continue to fire, of course, and our Eldred's Guard and our Grundle's defenders keep on defending the main line. Black Orcs have nearly reached us, though they are getting gunned down by the Amethyst Ironsides, and they're going to break and attempt to, well, break through our lines. I feel like I've been noticing the AI do that more, like actually try to route through you. I feel like it didn't used to do that as much. I wonder if something changed in that regard. I mean, something clearly changed in Warhammer 3 with regards to how units now take column formation just constantly for absolutely no reason whenever you try to move them. Certainly a fix for which I would really, really love. Not a big deal, of course, just a minor annoyance, but certainly still something I'd love a fix for. Anyway, Grimgor continuing to very slowly make his way towards us. He's got 44 speed on him. We don't have nearly as much slow as we might otherwise, but we got 3 Luminarchs now ready to target him. Can he reach us under fire from 3 Luminarchs? I would wager not, especially as it looks like the shots actually do knock him back. They only deal about 800 damage to him, though. Damn. 15% ward save, 25% missile resistance is enough to reduce 3.2k missile strength to whatever it was. I was just reading the damage numbers there, huh? 150% damage multiplier against buildings. Yeah, go figure. Wouldn't waste a shot from a Luminarch on a building, though. That's what cannons are for, with their much more plentiful ammunition. Yeah, Grimgor, it's going to take a long time to bring you down. Fortunately, we have plenty of shots available. Thunder barges are now flying from over the mountains and will be dropping their bombs and their shots into this forest as the reinforcing army continues to move towards us. Ooh, that's a cool shot, though. Yeah, I like how they're visible through the trees. And I'm willing to bet that the enemy does not like that at all. Well, the trees are protecting them a little bit, but not probably from bombs that are dropping directly overhead. Looks like a few of the enemy units that routed through us decided to rally and then to attempt to hit us in the back, but fortunately our Pegasus Knights are here to prevent them from doing such shenanigans. Grimgor's down to about 10% of his HP. It looks like the Luminarch volleys are going to tell, and a couple more will, in fact, bring him down before he can close the distance. All right. And down he goes. I feel a little bad about that as well. Certainly reminds me of Total Warhammer 1 back when poor Grimgor had not enough mass to take charges and would constantly get knocked around by enemies on mounts, and it made him really, really bad to play at the time. This was of course fixed in Total Warhammer 2, but with things knocking him back like the new Luminarchs like that and preventing him from closing the distance, I'm sure that he has PTSD of Total Warhammer 1. Anyway, Gelt continuing to draw magical support, helping out those thunder barges floating overhead and absolutely obliterating piles of goblins and orc boys. The balance of power shifts to about 90% in our favor, and pretty much nothing has really reached our main line. And more Luminarchs firing away at some trolls back here. A couple trolls dropping with every shot, and this is the Swamp Things Regiment of Renown as well, though they will be nothing very shortly. Also, I keep expecting to get the thunder barges to fire amethyst cannons and amethyst fire, because I got used to the amethyst land ships. But anyway, a little bit of chasing to do, but off screen. Alrighty, there we go. Poor Grimgor. The light of battle evaded him, only for him to be burned by the light of Hish as the Luminarch sniped him, and before he could before he could close the distance, which is a good thing, because there isn't, I mean, we would have had a tough time dealing with him in melee in this particular army. Certainly would have been a toughie. Lots of kills on our tanks, tons of kills on our barges, 6, 6, 8, one short on one of them there. Gelt got plenty of damage and kills as well at 78k. A wonderful time was had by all. Maybe not Grimgor's army. And then again, they're orcs. They do love to fight. Maybe they don't like to lose all that much, but Nonetheless. Orcs has never beaten in battle. Anyway, unless they, you know, get killed down to an orc. Occupy. Ferryman, Ruby Ring of Ruin, and Hide Striker, not particularly useful on Gelt, admittedly. We'll see if these guys attempt to attack us in reprisal. They do have plenty of units, and just in case we'll leave the settlement. It'll mean less healing, but at least this way they won't be able to see. Wait, can they actually reach us here? Yeah, they can. Well, this guy would have to reach us in march stance, mind you. I could risk it. Just risk it. Sit there. I don't really care about the territory either. Anyway, well done to Guilty Boy, and that should be a considerably weaker Grimgor faction. The other thing we gotta do this turn is to sink these Black Arcs, if they're willing to actually fight. And Mr. Meyer here, try going for this particular Black Arc first, Admiral Marion Spiteheart, and we'll see if the others are willing to reinforce. And indeed they are. Pyrrhic victory, and this will be a lovely final battle for the all-Elector State Troop Army. Also, we have one use for all of these. I guess you're only allowed to use one per battle. I hope that's not the same for Elspeth. I hope she can use them as much as we want. Otherwise, there was no need to have 3 of each kind. But I guess we'll see later on, or when I select her next time. Anyway, once more, or one last time, Andreas Meyer and your Elector Counts, or your state troops. Away we go.
Consummate warriors of the Empire.
Alrighty, here we go. Wasn't expecting to get Andreas Meyer a final battle, but I'm happy that we will get to. Before, there were too many of the Cult of Pleasure's armies sort of hanging around too close to each other, and this army is one of our weaker armies, therefore couldn't take multiple armies at once. However, after knocking out several of their stacks with Karl, Franz, and knocking down Morathi not once but twice, and the enemy is just not in it anymore with regards to the sufficient armies to hold us off. Anyway, we Vanguard deployed and are going to do our best to dish out as much damage to the first enemy army before their reinforcements arrive. They are actually moving onto the field fairly far away, so we should have time to hopefully obliterate the enemy here. Our steam tanks were Vanguard deployed out here and are moving in a straight line here. Why? Because there's a sort of uphill sort of path towards these guys, and the tanks wouldn't have been able to fire, so it was better to move them like this. The bordermen are obviously causing absolute mayhem with their grenades, but it looks like the enemy will strike back with a Hydra Breath into the bordermen, taking about 9 or 10 of their number out. Here comes the Black Arc support, 1, 2, and 3, all coming down. Kane's Lash, Kane's Cauldron, whatever the third one was, but that's not all. 4, 5, 6. There's more where that came from, because there are multiple Black Arcs nearby, upgraded to different levels, meaning this is going to be a lot more annoying than I had originally anticipated. Just constant attacks from those Black Arc support abilities. We can dodge 3 easily, but repeatedly with 6 of them, not so great. Looks like one of the Black Arc support abilities knocks down with the Black Lion's war wagons, and they were getting focused down by enemy range units. On the bright side, though, the enemy army is pretty much surrounded at this point. The noble sons abroad firing into the back of this Hydra, while the bordermen continue ripping apart the enemy range. Tanks are causing havoc among the enemy backline and have forced some enemy range units to rout, while our melee infantry are still moving towards the enemy army, but they'll get there eventually, I hope. Well, maybe not for this particular army. Anyway, another Hydra Breath comes down, stopping or at least pausing our Gunderman's sure fires and allowing another Black Arc support to hit them. More Black Arc support coming down all over the place. And it's certainly starting to do damage. Black lines are pretty badly beat up, and basically what this does is because these things just drop constantly, you can't really keep a unit still. The bordermen, the pistoliers, the handgunners, anytime they pause for even a few seconds, the enemy tries to drop a black arc, making this particular battle pretty damn hectic in terms of micro. And certainly that caught me off guard at least a few times, as we've clearly taken some damage to the enemy abilities, and I would wager a lot more damage to the Black Arc abilities than the actual enemy army out here. Which, you know what, fair enough. Fair enough. Anyway, enemy Hydra just about to go, and yet another Black Arc ability will come down on those Gunderman's Surefires just as they were attempting to bring that Hydra down, and they do succeed at it, but they take damage for their trouble. Enemy reinforcements have arrived, a Feral Manticore moving in to give chase to our tanks, more Black Arc support coming down to attempt to hit our Stubborn Bulls, who do want to join into the battle, as well, as they have not yet managed to do anything. Stop for a second, and the bordermen once again and get targeted by those damn Black Arcs. Oh my lord, what an annoyance. But it's certainly making the battle interesting, and the balance of power remains at about 50-50. Now, our bordermen are getting chased around by the Dark Riders. Unfortunately, here they are basic tier 1 troops, but they are stronger than the Outriders are. And, ooh, gotta watch out for those grenades or tank shots or whatever the heck that is. And damn, that allows the enemy Dark Riders to close the distance. We're going to have to run. Ooh, they're certainly not going to... Damn, the bordermen are dropping massively as the enemy activates its murderous prowess at the perfect time for them to dish out damage. It looks like we're down to 9 units. We're going to have to back off and hope that the Nordland Mariners can hold the Dark Riders back while we book it on out of there. Our mage activates a chain lightning and the biggest blob of enemy units here, while our tanks move through them as well. These Stubborn Bulls were what allowed that chain lightning to do damage as they moved in and essentially held back a bunch of enemy units all at once, and then we dropped the chain lightning and then backed the Stubborn Bulls off. Balance of power has shifted at this point to about 65, maybe even 70, or at least closing in on it, percent in our favor. The Dark Riders have seen our Outriders off, but are now taking shots from our Gunderman's Surefires, and it looks like the Dark Riders will book it on out of their fragile units as they are. Black Line's war wagons making their way forward together with our piles of infantry, which really haven't done much in this particular battle. It's just been a hectic sort of fire and dodge repeatedly kind of battle, as we had to keep moving through the entire fight because of all that Black Arc support. That said, it looks like the enemy has finally run out of those abilities. Not a moment too soon, because damn. Alright, now it's a matter of just cleaning the enemy up. Once again, a little bit unfortunate that it's a dark map, but we're having so many battles in this particular episode that, well, a dark battle or two won't make much of a difference, and it looks like I spoke too soon. The enemy still has Black Arc support. Damn those abilities. But well, not a big deal. Looks like one of the enemy Dreadlords, and it's a Dreadlord with sword and crossbow, funnily enough. Probably going to be the less effective variant, as the AI has a tendency to sort of keep it standing there, firing that crossbow, which is of course bad for it, as we can fire back and we have a lot more range than the enemy does. I say, just as the Nordland Mariners move in to take the kill. There we go. Take the last 200 HP off the enemy lord. And with that, the battle is pretty much ours. The entire enemy army shatters and only the single enemy lord remains. Was a fairly close call in some ways, at the very least to those units that got heavily damaged. But once again, it looks like most of the damage came from the enemy Black Arc and not the enemy army. Or Black Arcs, I should say, because they combine support pretty effectively. Ooh, very nice. A pretty tough fight. Probably mostly by virtue of the fact that our infantry were far, far too slow to get to combat, and the enemy had a relatively fast set of troops, in addition to those Dark Riders ripping our Bordermen apart. Granted, the Bordermen still managed to do 13 and nearly 16k damage on the two of them, so pretty darn solid either way. It would have been funny to see the faces of the Dark Riders if they charged into Amethyst Outriders rather than regular Outriders, because I think the Amethyst Outriders would have obliterated them in melee. Anyway, that's 3 Black Arcs. I don't know whether they get destroyed, but their admirals are certainly dead. Not entirely sure what happens to their troops. They sub Black Arc support. Are we able to move any further? I'd love to chase them down and destroy them all. Oh, let me guess. The auto-resolve won't let the Bordermen survive. Well, I suppose it doesn't matter, because I guess it's time for another cut anyway, as... Well, more likely than not, we have, what, maybe 2 battles remaining? Gelt, if these guys decide to attack him together, I'll fight it, but if it's only 1 by 1, then there isn't really much point as they get destroyed. And Elspeth, 1 turn to heal, and then onward and upward towards Nagash and her final battle as well. Everybody else is pretty much done. Anyway, another cut. Bid farewell to Admiral Meyer, who did a good job with troops so basic. Alright folks, we've got ourselves a final battle for Boris and the Flagellants. Dibs on the band name, but yeah, and it looks like a pretty good one. Pyrrhic victory, casualties high. We've got those rogue idols in the enemy army, which are going to be extremely tough for this army to really do anything whatsoever about. And we've got Black Orcs as well, Biggins, Cav, and they outnumber us. On top of all that, should be a real good time. I'm genuinely not sure how we're going to bring those rogue idols down. I'm going to hope that the Luminarch can do tons of work here, but let's find out. Yeah.
Battle ready!
Alrighty, well, the Flagellants are always battle ready, so and that's just fine. Let's see what we can do. I do like the little formation that we've got in this particular army around the drums, almost a dwarf box-like formation, but works very, very differently than one. Anyway, this is probably going to be very, very tough here. We don't really have an easy way to knock down the enemy rogue idols. We're going to do our best to do as much damage to them as possible with that Luminarch, which apparently doesn't even stagger the rogue idols. Maybe they have so much mass that they cannot be staggered. And, oh, 12,000 mass. I was wondering if Bibabolos had the most mass in the game, but it looks like I think it has 9,000 mass, meaning Toad Dragons do have less mass than Rogue Idols do. But yeah, Rogue Idols versus Flagellants is just a non-starter, so we're going to do our best to at least knock one out, and we'll see if that works out for us. It does look like the enemy will take hits to the rogue idol like this, as the rock lobbers will hit back or attempt to fire back on our Luminarch, but that's kind of a waste of their ammunition, and it's not going to be particularly threatening to the Luminarch at any rate. I'm glad that it's a rock lobber that the enemy has rather than a Doom Diver, as that would have easily killed this thing, and we would have had to attempt to bring the Doom Diver down first. Now, to make this a little bit more even, I think we're going to go ahead and make use of some of our Amethyst artillery support. Not like we've been using it anywhere else, ever. So why not? We have the ability. And, Rogue Idols being adorable as usual. But anyway, how are you looking, sir? It's down to about half HP, but I think we've seen the Luminarch fire enough times to know roughly what's happening, so I'm just going to speed it up and let it continue firing. Unfortunately, by the looks of it, our Luminarch is down to over half of its ammunition gone, and only a single rogue idol is down to about 20%. We also use Kettle's Call to summon Great Hawks in the hopes of ripping apart this unit of rock lobbers. We want that one artillery piece gone, if we can make it happen. Unfortunately, despite the Kettle's Call working to send those Great Hawks in quickly, they get surrounded by Black Orcs and Orc Boys and whatever so quickly that they get destroyed before they can really do much of anything in terms of damage. 3 kills and, well, actually they did a little bit of damage, but by the looks of it, not so much to the rock lobbers. I think the rock lobbers were hurt more from the enemy or from our use of the Flock of Doom rather than Kettle's Call. But all good. All good. We'll keep working on those rock lobbers. Gonna send them some Gehenna's Golden Hounds to deal with them while the enemy gets finally annoyed at us and starts trying to chase down our Gold Wizard. Not to worry, we have 2 Empire captains in this army who are here to buff up our flagellants, but we'll also move in to try to help the wizards out and prevent them from getting killed. 2 versus 1 here, but the Empire captains aren't all that good in terms of one-on-ones. And possibly not even 2-on-1s against an actual fighty lord, as they're relatively weak. But remember that Skullcracker that just wouldn't frickin' die? But anyway, 2 versus 1, they have buffs, they have decent stats, and more importantly, we can support them with the Gold Wizard and the Amber Wizard as well. Moving close by to drop the Helm of Discord first on the enemy lord, and then we can follow it up with Van Horstman's Speculum as well. And just lots of debuffs. The enemy does manage to chip away about 30% of the HP, or maybe 20% of the HP, off one of the Empire captains, but between the debuffs and between both of them attacking him, it looks like the enemy lord will lose to the captains. Hopefully they do have enough speed to chase him down. The Pegasi should be considerably faster than a Wyvern, so I do imagine that they will succeed. And down goes the enemy lord. A bit of a waste there, but we've got more stuff to do. So first, we drop a Flock of Doom upon the enemy, and then we follow it up with a little bit of Amethyst to work. I don't remember if it comes from the sky or not. I don't want to miss it, though. Okay, Gehenna's Golden Hounds. And there it is. There we go. Alright, lots of those. I don't even remember the name of this ability. We haven't used it a lot, but it certainly did a decent bit of damage to the enemy there. Alright, nice. That certainly reduces their numbers. It does nothing for us in terms of the rogue idols, which are the biggest problem, funnily enough, as we've seen when we fought the Chaos Dwarves, which are similarly heavily armored to the Black Orcs. It's not the infantry that's a problem. We defeated Infernal Guard and all the other sort of stuff, but the single entities is where this army struggles. That's what our Zotes and Empire captains are supposed to take care of. Anyway, another Flock of Doom. I was hoping at this point the enemy would be sufficiently annoyed to actually move towards our army, as I didn't want to move forward while the Rock Lobber was still alive. Looks like another Kettle's Call is called for, I should say, and hopefully this will be enough to get that Rock Lobber bloody well out of here. Over on the right flank, we've also sent forward one of our units of Knights of the Everlasting Light. Hopefully we can catch that unit of Boar Chariots with our 2 Empire captains and the Knights of the Everlasting Light together. Rip it apart and then get back away. Before we lose any of these units or take any damage, we've sort of been taking this army apart piecemeal, just destroying units, chipping away at their HP, etc., and then not yet committing to the main fight. Necessary to work a little bit harder in a bad matchup like this. Now, speaking of bad matchups, Knights of the Everlasting Light get charged by Crimson Killers, and that is not something they want to deal with. We're going to send in our 2 Empire Knights, or 2 Empire Captains rather, to cover the retreat of the Knights of the Everlasting Light, who will instead go after the Boar Chariots and Forest Goblin Spider Riders. Hopefully we can keep the Crimson Killers distracted, the 2 Empire Captains, for a little bit, but they do start losing HP really rapidly. This one's down to half HP already. And those swings with those big ol' axes We'll bring the Empire captains down if we let them. So, we will drop a little bit of a debuff on the enemy with another one of those Helms of Discord. The Knights of the Everlasting Light have cleared out those boar chariots. And the debuff has these guys down to, wow, only 7 melee defense, but their melee attack is also now fairly low, and with the 82 melee defense of the Empire captains, they should be okay. Ooh, gotta get away from that rogue idol, though. Still did cost us about more than half of the HP on one of our units, but it did sufficiently annoy the enemy to at last move towards us. We have no range fire, but that's alright. The enemy will join us for some glorious melee action. Boar Boy's charge will be stopped by our hero, a warrior priest, and then the Zotes and Flagellants will follow suit in a frenzied attack to bring down the Boar Boys, hopefully before the Black Orcs and other stuff gets here. Not that this particular army is going to be particularly afraid of rear charges and all that sort of thing, because we have no range anyway. Other than the Luminarch, which is sort of just hanging out, giving the defensive or ward save aura to us. We have split our army effectively into 2 separate blobs, but keeping the 2 war drums in the center to buff up both sides. Here comes the Rogue Idol. Just the one, though, as it looks like we managed to distract this one long enough with the Empire Captains and the Knights of the Everlasting Light to mean that it's away from the main fight, which works out quite well for us. Dropping that glittering robe on our Flagellants as well, popping their armor up to 18, and between repeated uses of glittering robe and Vissen's wild form, the Flagellants are massively armored. Plus, of course, the armor that we give them via the various buffs like the drums. Also, speaking of buffs and debuffs and aura stacking, look at these Black Orcs. Wait, were these Black Orcs? Oh, they're not close enough. Alright, it'll happen in a second. Or it'll happen later, possibly. Anyway, there's that Vissen's wild form, and damn, look at all those buffs happening at once. All that buff stacking, 103 melee attack, 65 melee defense, 168 armor on a unit of Flagellants, and massive amounts of damage resistance and stuff as well, with the additional ward save provided by the Luminarch. That's 40% ward save on top of all the stats. So at least while all that is up, even the Rogue Idol will have a tough time and dishing out damage to the Flagellants and everything else here. And, yeah, look at this. Orc Biggins. Melee attack 3. Melee defense 7, only with the Helm of Discord plus all the other auras. We can see the, over on the left, okay, I can't. All of this on the enemy. All of those debuffs being stacked. Pretty disgusting when we can repeatedly use the Helm of Discords and the Van Horseman Speculum. Also, the enemy has blobbed up really nicely for us as we hold them off, and that's a perfect target for a Searing Doom into all those Orc Boys, Biggins, and Black Orcs. Over on the right flank, or actually left flank, the enemy's right flank, over on the left flank, the enemy army has pretty much collapsed as the Zotes rip apart the Biggins together with the Flagellants. And it looks like these guys will shatter. By the looks of it, the enemy army is liable to shatter fairly shortly as well. The second unit of Knights of the Everlasting Light continues running around in the background and will now rear charge those units right after a Searing Doom. Decent timing, if I do say so myself. Everybody else is surrounded. The Rogue Idol here, Empire Captains, Warrior Priests, Zotes, Empire Knights, all working together to try to make sure that it doesn't do too much damage. It's got that Van Horstman on it, with melee attack down to 23 and melee defense down to 3. Certainly a massive amount of weapon strength, but that's still a lot of debuffs on it. And the Rogue Idol will drop at last. Beautiful. The other Rogue Idol is still in the game, but it is crumbling as the entire enemy army has at this point shattered. All the infantry have been destroyed, and the Rogue Idol loses heart, or loses its, I don't know, whatever's keeping it up and running. And it marches forward to attempt to get a few more hits in before it crumbles away. I love watching the Rogue Idols fight, though. They're a very entertaining unit. There we go, and a very nice collapse, and with that, the battle is ours. Very nice. Took a lot less damage on our flagellants. In fact, we didn't take a lot of damage on our flagellants at all. A little bit of help from the Amethyst support, not a crazy amount, mind you, but enough, and great work by the mages and by the Empire captains and the knights, and just generally peeling away enemy armies or enemy units, dividing and conquering. Alright, very nice indeed. Was it necessary to use the Amethyst support? I'm not sure, but at the end of the day, we basically went the entire campaign without using him, and it was nice to see how much damage they could actually do, especially since there's no guarantee we'll get a good blob shot with Elspeth's final battle, so we may as well have used it here, and we certainly have enough schematics remaining to top ourselves up. A little bit disappointed that the Luminarch, I mean, it did 19k damage with its full volleys into the rogue idols, but 19k is only slightly stronger than a single rogue idol, which has 16,000 HP, so it's effectively you're trading an enemy rogue idol for a Luminarch, because the Luminarch was effectively useless afterwards. Well, I mean, it did provide its aura, but, yeah. But it's interesting, because it did keep more of our infantry safe. Nonetheless, it all worked out. I guess in this particular army, I got too used to having restock in every army, because we've been using a lot of engineers and outriders and stuff, and war wagons, all of which have restock, but then suddenly we have a Luminarch that can't restock itself, and limited ammunition sucks. But anyway, praise Sigmar, get yourself healed up, and what is this? Oh. Grimgor is attacking, and it's not going to... Yeah, but this isn't really worth fighting. I mean... look what'll happen. And Grimgor will get killed by the 3 Luminarchs before he reaches range, and so will the big entities, and... Yeah, screw it, one more time. Why not, Gelt? Why not? I mean, we could also not do the interception, but, you know, and by virtue of the fact that it's an interception might make it a little bit more interesting. Who knows? Plus, I got Gelt badly damaged by auto-resolving a few garbage stacks one by one, so screw it. There we go again. Alrighty, here we go. You know, I really wasn't originally expecting for the final episode to have 3 Balthazar Gelt battles, but on the other hand, I had been worried that Balthazar wouldn't get quite as much love as a lot of the other lords, especially those that had a lot of screen time throughout the campaign. He is a newly confederated lord, after all, but with 3 battles in the finale, I think we're giving him a heck of a send-off. Anyway, the steam tanks and the Luminarchs are Vanguard deployed and are absolutely ripping into the enemy Ragnarok Queen and Rogue Idol. The Ragnarok Queen could only probably take a couple more shots before she goes down, and down she does go. Yeah, I didn't do that on cue, but these 2 shots will bring her down. There we go. Ooh, nice explosion from those steam tanks as well. I mean, Rogue Idol is coming up next, and unlike the other battle where we had only 1 Luminarch firing on Rogue Idols, 3 should be able to take care of it quite quickly, especially with a little bit of help from the steam tanks. They're not going to do nearly as much damage as the Luminarchs to it, perhaps, but once again, 3 Luminarchs on a unit that doesn't get staggered means it'll lose its HP very, very rapidly. Can't fall down like a giant would, and thus it will crumble instead, having taken every single hit to the face. 29 HP, and it tries to walk away from the battle. Oh, poor guy. Every time. Every time. Oh well. Oh well. Now, how are we doing? Ooh, a nice shot from those Luminarchs, though. Just look at the amount of damage from that. Trying to hit those trolls. Additional damage coming in from Gehenna's Golden Hounds from Gelt. The enemy does try to get around our flanks by sending all of its cavalry up and down the left and right side, but we send our steam tanks on both sides in, essentially, to countercharge them and prevent them from attempting to go around. Ooh, nice near point blank cannon shot there. Oh, very nice. You gotta love steam tanks. And the Emperor's Wraths in particular with that steam expulsion ability. Between the steam expulsion and the landmines of land ships, it's a pretty disgusting combination when you have both abilities. Anyway, the enemy is now giving chase to our Luminarchs with some boar chariots. I don't think the boar chariots could actually kill the Luminarchs. At the very least, I doubt it. But we may as well back off and fire from the safety of our battle lines instead. The Amethyst gunners and whatever other gunners will bring down the boar chariots fairly quickly. They will rout, but it's far too late, and they should have just charged through instead of being killed by taking shots to the back. Trolls will attempt to make their way forward as well, but we got more guns where that came from. Unlike usual, we don't send our thunder barges forward because they're damaged due to some auto resolves, but that's just fine. They can provide support from overhead. And they look quite nice doing so as well. The Luminarchs have now selected a target, the main target, the Grimgor. Once more, 3 shots once again smashing into him, and he's down to by about 30% of his HP. He's still got a long way to travel though, and the steam tanks have caused a lot of havoc and are now returning to the main line, and just as the Luminarchs have previously. There we go, Amethyst gunners or Ironsides firing down into those units of orc boys. Looks like Grimgor's down to about 40% of his HP now. And the enemy has still not managed to reach our line. Now, when the enemy attempted to send 2 armies to Gelt, they decided not to when they had the opportunity, so they were too afraid to attempt it. And this is probably why. Down goes Grimgor, and with Grimgor fallen yet again, the entire army will similarly shatter, and the battle will be ours. We don't have to chase because it's an underway interception, and Grimgor loses his stack once more. Alright, there we go. Those 2 other armies may have been too cowardly to attack Gelt directly, but at least Grimgor wasn't. Or at least that's what I'm sure he'll tell himself, because it was an underway interception and thus he was trying to go somewhere else. But that's his problem. His army obliterated our losses at 0, and this is why I was considering and just doing that battle off screen, but it was fun enough watching all of our combined sort of guns. Gun the enemy down. And Gelt's army, pretty solid. Alright, gotta love those Luminarchs getting rid of the Ragnarok and the Rogue Idol and Grimgor before they can do anything. Nice to have an army that's a little bit more focused on them, even if they're not as powerful heroes they would be in SFO by virtue of Gelt buffing them up, which he doesn't do here. He buffs up the rocket batteries, and we basically have no rocket batteries on the map. Anyway, we will praise Sigmar. And what is this? Oh, I wasn't going to fight this. I'm actually surprised that this guy was willing to fight. I mean, I really don't care about this particular army. I didn't even assign the skill points. On the other hand, if it dies, it dies, and we could do a sort of little tiny mini last stand just because we can. Might be fun. Man, we've already gotten 10 battles in this particular episode, and that's just gonna be so much editing. Oh man, why do I do this? Why do I do this? It's not even worth it making these finales with like a billion battles, like a full day of nothing but this, considering they always come once the interest has dropped off, but I just can't say no. I just can't say no to a good fight. Now let's get to it.
unrivaled leadership, for we shall emerge victorious this day!
Alrighty, here we go. You know, I was saying that I wasn't expecting this particular battle, or I wasn't expecting other battles, but this battle I really wasn't expecting. I honestly completely forgot that I had besieged the Red Fortress with this little auto-resolve army, and the fact that it was quite heavily damaged going into it, or at the very least all the single entities are down to pretty low HP due to, well, auto-resolves in previous times. Oh well, we're just gonna have to deal. Gotta make the best of it. And if it's their last stand, then it'll be their last stand. So, the way that we're going to do this is we're going to try to force the enemy into a choke point. There is a decent choke point here. More likely than not, the enemy will not attempt to go around this way, so they'll either go this way or possibly this way as well. But if we can concentrate fire here, we should be able to sufficiently slow them and heavily damage them all at the same time. Don't forget that while the Nuln Ironsides don't slow the enemy down, we have 5 great cannons here, all of which have monstrous impact, combined with 4 units of mortar war wagons, which have that dazed effect as well. If the enemy is to blob up, it's going to be very ugly for them. But we'll see if they do. In the meantime, we've sent forward our engineers, master and regular alike, and they are working to kill the enemy mages. First target is the enemy Chaos Sorcerer of Metal here, who loses about 40% of his HP with a volley from both the engineers. And hopefully we can get another good volley or two and knock him out before he can cast anything on our... oh wow, that looked painful. Before he can cast anything on our main lines. Alright, come on, hit him again. He's down to maybe 40% of his HP. There we go, 2 hits, and damn, he managed to dodge those. And his other sorcerer sends forth a fireball, but it hits a hill instead. It does look like the enemy was waiting for its reinforcements to arrive, but fortunately for it, said reinforcements are here. Our cannons are continuing to provide support, but the enemy army is by and large out of range of the cannons and only in range of the mortar fire. That's alright though, we can keep moving or inching our way forward just a teensy bit at a time with our cannons to hopefully get in range as fast as possible. Ooh, and there we go, both shots from both units of the engineers smash into that enemy Chaos Sorcerer, and down he goes, and I don't know what the heck that effect was, but down he goes is the important part. Yeah, these guys are pretty darn solid, the engineers at sniping single entities. I've been very happy with them. Anyway, looks like an exalted hero will give chase to them, but they can fire while moving, and that perhaps is not the best move. He's down to half HP already, and a couple more shots will probably knock him out. Grenade launcher master engineer is probably not going to do too much to you, but these guys are much more dangerous. At least to non-infantry units, to single entities. And it's not like you're going to be able to catch them, good sir, or at the very least I find it to be fairly unlikely. We're going to try to peel one away simply because... Ooh, another nice couple of volleys down to 30% HP, maybe 25% HP, I don't know. We want to peel him away as we are now in range of the cannons, and we don't want the cannons firing into our own units, so we need them to fire into the enemy's side. The enemy is very much annoyed now, and the entire enemy army tries to head towards us. We're going to have to back the mortars off and similarly back off all of our engineers. That said, they do appear to be heading directly towards us and not so much around us, which might work out very well. Cannon fire and Nuln Ironsides alike will fire into some Chaos Chariots, the Chaos Chariots of Tzeentch, to go down very quickly and with little trouble. An auspicious start, I would say. An enemy Manticore moves forward as well, but gets hit with a massive volley from the Nuln Ironsides, and is trying to chase down those mortar war wagons, but will rout rather than be able to continue forward. Very nice indeed. And hopefully it won't be bad. Chaos Knights move forward, but the monstrous impact slows them down to a mere 28 speed. Mortars were unfortunately a little bit busy repositioning, so we don't have as much slow as we normally might like. And there we go, the mortars have now repositioned and are going to start firing on the enemy infantry and cavalry alike. The enemies are starting to close the distance with our gun line of Nuln Ironsides. We're going to have to pause those Chaos Knights or stop those Chaos Knights in their tracks with a net of Ammontok. And they'll get ripped apart by the Nuln Ironsides and the cannons. Good. That one was close. The enemy does manage to get a few Screamers over the little mountain here, together with a few units of Chaos Warhounds, but between one of our engineers managing to anchor the line and another unit of Nuln Ironsides moving parallel to them or perpendicular to them, we should be able to gun down the Screamers and the dogs alike without too much trouble. Mortars are firing away nicely now, and Monstrous Impact is combining with a daze to continue slowing the enemy army down as they continue attempting to make their way through this choke point. Oh, what a fun little defense. And ooh, an enemy exalted hero takes a bunch of shots from a bunch of units and loses about 90% of its HP, and then drops. Very nice, and Knights will book it on out of there, but Chosen and Chaos Warriors continue marching forth. A giant has fallen down because it gets staggered by cannon fire, but it's all good. 11 speed on those Chosen, that ain't great for them. And with Daze, they're down to 4 speed, they basically can't move. Oh, when that much slow is applied to an already slow unit, it makes a choke point like this pretty darn disgusting. And in a hail of gunfire, the giant loses most of its HP. The cannons continue knocking it down while the Nuln Ironsides continue firing into its back. And the giant will collapse, crushing Chosen and Chaos Warriors beneath him as the entire rest of the army will break and the battle will be ours. Unexpectedly, effectively so. I thought we would... well, I thought this would not go so well, let's just say. But it worked out. Dazed and Monstrous Impact. 4 speed on Chaos Warriors and Chosen. And this army isn't even really built for speed reduction. I mean, it wasn't really built for anything, it's just an auto-resolve army. But, yeah. A very, very nice choke fight. Man, a heck of a choke point defense. I'm pretty glad I fought that. This wasn't the slowdown army, but the combination of these Monstrous Impact from the Great Cannons and the Dazed from the War Wagons slowed down the enemy very, very considerably, and our losses were pretty minimal. I've also generally been... I'm pretty impressed with the capabilities of the engineers. They seem to do a lot of damage, and I'm surprised by this because, in my experience, Wolfheart does not do a lot of damage, being a ranged lords, but the engineers, I mean, they're performing as well or better than a unit of Nuln Ironsides. They're sniping individual targets, they're getting plenty of kills, and yeah, good for them, and good for them, and good for this army. Once again, if you don't remember where this army is from, it was just a random garbage stack that we put together to auto-resolve. This was an auto-resolve army, just meant to help take Cathay stuff faster. But I decided to send it up north to make sure that the village doesn't bother our Cathayan friends, and it got a nice battle out of it with that glorious choke point. Anyway, we'll praise Sigmar, and we should be able to auto-resolve the remnants of a village's faction. 41 factions on the map, and that's counting the... rogue armies and stuff as well. Ally occupies settlements, swell for ally, and technology research. Ward save for battle wizards. Could have used that in this fight for this guy. And what the heck? Oh, right. They attacked us. They attacked us. Decisive victory. Goodbye, village. Sack. And I guess occupied. We could give it... Oh, can we actually give it to anybody? Huh, maybe we should have raised it. Occupied, abandon it. There we go. As long as the puppets of Misrule are destroyed. Certainly don't want them doing, you know, stopping Elspeth, muddling her mind while she's on the way to the finale. Elspeth, go on your way, would you? And just out of curiosity, nah, just like the other armor, she can only use these things one time. Oh, she should have the special ability to use multiple times, game. Come on now. Restock, and restock. At last, when pretty much everything has been conquered, we finally have enough schematics. Although, Dewey, a single amethyst landship costs 4,000, which is just nuts. But anyway. Oh, also I forgot to say, over the last of the previous time skip, Wolfheart decided to confederate. He did not have much in the way of territory left, but that's just fine. He has some territory here, and we're reasonably friendly with the lizards. I do say reasonably. Frankly, we're friendly with everybody here. They're all fighting amongst themselves, but they don't really care about us. Wolfheart will return in 2 turns, but I think we will have to let him go, as we're not going to build an army and send it who knows where to fight. Anyway, I believe it's time for another time skip, unless we run into... Damn, I was hoping Helmut Feuerbach would run into Krokgar and get a decent final fight for himself, but yeah, we might not be able to get a final battle for every single army. I've been trying to get a fight for the fire army for Deconstructor Zintler, one more fight for him, but these guys are just not showing up. We hit them a little too hard, let's say, with Karl and that sneaky Morathi kill with Andreas Meyer. It all worked out well. And of course, sinking her Black Arcs. But yeah, that faction's dead. Grimgor's faction is basically now dead. I think they have maybe 1 army remaining, and it's a half stack as well. Anyway, one more time skip, I think. Onward to the end. Alright, one more before Elspeth and her final battle. I was hoping Helmut Feuerbach and Bruckner would be able to get to their final battles, and Krokgar, by the looks of it, will oblige, at the very least when he has 2 armies, to call upon lots of Saurus with spears here, vastly outnumbering the other Saurus. Plenty of Cold One Riders, a little bit of cav-on-cav action, and a little bit of anti-large from those Saurus. Should be a pretty decent time. The enemy also has a lot of the Saurus Scarvets and Lords and Heroes, in addition to Krokgar. So, I think the battle will be a good one for the finale. So here we go. Alrighty, here we go for Heldenhammer indeed, and after so many dark battles, it's nice to get one that is very nicely lit up, and it's going to be an absolutely glorious battle by the looks of it, just by the virtue of the sheer number of the enemy troops and the fact that they were willing to attack us rather than being afraid and running away. They think that they can win. Let's see Helmut Feuerbach and Theodor Bruckner prove them wrong. Now, the enemy has a lot of reinforcements, but they are coming in anywhere between 1 minute and 30 seconds and 2 minutes. Fortunately, our entire cavalry force is quite fast, so I think we're going to take advantage of that and move towards Krokgar, who will use his Hand of the Gods on Helmut there. Move towards Krokgar to dish out as much damage to his main army as possible before backing off and allowing him to move towards the center of the map. Unfortunately, the enemy has, or the AI has, this annoying tendency to wait for its reinforcements to arrive at the edge of the map. And the annoying aspect of this is that if you rout this army, they'll just run off immediately from the edge of the map, and you want to fight closer to the center so that you don't have to deal with units again next turn, since they barely taken any damage. Anyway, Helmut will drop down on an enemy Saurus Scar veteran, while Bruckner will charge Reaper through the enemy line and directly towards Krokgar himself. Speaking of charging through the enemy line, a massive amount of damage from that charge. Skin Cohort completely destroyed, half of the HP eaten from the Saurus warriors, and Skin Cohort here, and another Skin Cohort here. as those demigryphs absolutely rip into the enemy with their charge. Very nice, and they are of course backed up, or forwarded up I guess, by the Amethyst land ships with those Mortis engine effects and their all-directional fire support. Out here, Bruckner has already ripped Groggar apart by the looks of it, a massive amount of debuffs, especially the Titan Headsman ability, dropping his melee defense down to a mere 28, and despite the fact that Groggar hits hard and has massive melee attack of his own, he just doesn't have the defense to hold on. Very nice. And we got a little bit of help from the Royal Altdorf Griffites and Helmet here, but mostly because Groggar and his Saurus Scarvet, who we just saw drop, fought back to back. Anyway, backing off with some of our units of demigryphs while our landships continue annoying the enemy. Still in the fight over on this side, rather. I got turned around a little bit, while these two attempt to chase Groggar down. No more Hand of the Gods, please, as the headsman takes a head. Alright, very nice, and here come the reinforcements, and thus we back off. Gotta love a nice mobile army. Of course, the not siege ships, the land ships can stick around for a little bit longer. Y'all might want to pull that ladder up, though, just so that jerks can't climb it. Seems like a good idea when you're in the middle of the fray. Don't leave that easy access there. Not that I have anything against easy access, let me giggle. Anyway, let's see. Cold One Riders attempting to surround the Amethyst landships, but it's probably a bad idea. If they sufficiently surround them, they'll simply get a landmine and dropped upon them. And otherwise they'll continue taking Mortis engine effect damage and such. It does look like the enemy has managed to trap one of our Demigryph Knights, which has a couple of the units trapped and thus forces the entire unit to repeatedly return to the fray. It's an annoying behavior, but that's part of the game, part of the Total War experience at this point, so what can you do? We're going to try to move our landships in to reinforce and try to block off this blob to allow those Demigryphs to escape. On the bright side, though, the enemy is closing in on the center of the map, which will soon mean both our Demigryphs and our Knights of Morr and our Knights of the Black Rose will soon be ready to charge on in as well. And look absolutely fantastic while they do. And here we go. Looks like Helmet has found a unit of Cold One Riders, which will be first on the menu for the Knights here. Pegasus on the ground to lead the cavalry charges. And those Cold One Knights are pretty much done. The units of Amethyst landships have stayed in the fray, but here come the Demigryphs returning to it. And over on the right flank, more units of Knights of Morr and the Knights of the Black Rose as well. Though they have gotten surrounded over here, and we may have to move the landships in to help them out a little bit. Or landship, I should say. Not to worry, though, we do have a lot of magical support in this army. We use no spells or no mana to do damage, only to heal the cavalry. And it does work fairly well. Alright, a very hectic battle in the center. The Demigryphs are definitely starting to take damage. This one down below half HP. Bruckner taking a little bit of damage fighting an enemy Kroxigor Ancient. This Demigryph Knight unit also down to about half HP, but Saurus and Skinks are sent flying everywhere you look. Demigryphs fighting together with the Knights of Morr and Knights of the Black Rose now. And everybody sending everybody flying. Beautiful, beautiful sight, and an epic final fight for Helmut Feuerbach and for Theodor Bruckner. And he got to fight Groggar as well, which is quite nice. Alright, the enemy is, by the looks of it, down to the dregs of its balance of power. It shifts to 100% in our favor, and the lizards will break. Yeah, obviously there wasn't any real reason to attack the lizards other than I just really wanted a final battle for this army, since it's been a while since it got into the fray, since it was traveling by sea to get over here and take that one territory from Kairos. But Kairos is too weak to bother going after, but fortunately Groggar's faction, the Last Defenders, were very much not such. Lovely, lovely fight. Alrighty, that was a very nice battle. Certainly we saw a lot of the demigryphs take considerable damage. Their charges were very impactful, but getting bogged down against those Saurus with spears saw them lose a fair few of their number. Lots of damage on the 2 Amethyst land ships, but these things have a mortis engine effect, so the blobs of infantry do really work well in terms of racking up the kills there, though they didn't, I mean, and these demigryphs got 258 kills, 227, 210, that's pretty solid, all things considered, in comparison to the land ships, the Amethyst land ships, I mean, which took so many buffs and took so much effort to get on field, etc, 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 and cost a lot more. Anyway, a lovely fight for all these guys. We are going to heal up, but Krokgar is pretty much done, I would wager. And I guess we're pretty much done with the campaign. That was 12 battles. Look, Grimgor's back. 12 battles, I believe. Which means Elspeth's final fight will be lucky number 13. And a lovely Saurus Smiter trait. And the White Cloak of Ulrich. Could have used that earlier, but oh well. I mean, we had 1 or possibly 2, but yeah. Gotta use more. In terms of techs, before we finish up the campaign, we are missing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Alright, we were 6 techs short of completing everything. Improved heavy weapons might have been, well, a little bit of power for the halberdiers, and then the hero techs we didn't really care about, to be perfectly honest. I mean, there wasn't any need. Anyway, the number of turns to win a battle before the Nemesis crown is lost is 1, so we've no choice but to fight Elspeth's final battle here. And in terms of this, we were actually quite close to achieving domination campaign victory. I think we could probably auto-resolve a couple more battles and reach that, but I mean, for all intents and purposes, we have all allies or our own territory. Everything is allies or our own territory. Just a few holdouts in Kairos, and well, the last defenders just got wrecked. And hey, we got Khemri out here as well, so yeah, and Khemri as well as the Ghost of Pahwaks are at war with Kairos, who is pretty much done as well. It's not quite world conquest, but it's basically like 99% world conquest. Grimgor has 2 settlements remaining, and we could auto-resolve those, but I think it's basically done. Anyway, Elspeth. Okay, I thought it was a big old stack, but no, we're good. Elspeth, time for your final fight with the Nemesis crown, with your abilities, etc, etc, against Clan Carrion. I'm gonna hope that they don't run. Declare war. Don't call your allies to help. And okay, well this isn't the main stack. This is just a garbage stack outside the settlement. What do we have here? They got warp bombs. They've got the reinforcements. Ooh, lots of poison wind mortars. Those are certainly dangerous. We got the settlement garrison, the Chitter Skull reinforcements, and the mutant rat ogres and the hell pit abominations and stuff. Should be pretty nice. And it looks like a fun final fight. One more time, folks. Away we go.
Dark magics I bring from the shores of death. You should fear me, my friends, but not half as much as the enemy will.
Alrighty, well Elspeth, I think the world's grown to fear you well enough at this point. Welcome folks to the final battle of the campaign, an epic conclusion hopefully to a epic finale to an epic campaign. So, let's hope that the cinematic works well enough for our purposes here, broken as it is due to the Hellstorm Hailstorm rocket batteries. Anyway, the first enemy army is just to warm up, frankly. It's a pile of Skaven slaves, and they're just here to take some of our ammunition, but this feels lorefully appropriate. The enemy would absolutely try to choke our guns and make us run out of ammunition by sending Skaven slaves forth before its main army, or armies, as the enemy does have 2 stacks coming in as reinforcements. That said, these piles of Skaven slaves are easily cleared by our units of Hailstorm rocket batteries. And just because they're not available in other armies doesn't mean they won't work real nicely here. Elspeth continues hovering overhead, mostly to annoy the enemy lord. Gonna get that laser dragon breath, Carmine dragon breath on the enemy lord, which rips his HP down to 30%. And we'll follow that up with a nice Spirit Leech and more rockets for his Skaven slave friends. And there we go. The main enemy line, of course, is too far away from our Amethyst handguns. Oh, well, actually, I spoke too soon. These guys are in range down. Ooh, nice volley from the Outriders as well. We've got a pretty nice position, a nice elevated hill for all of our artillery to fire down from, and sort of be every unit behind every other unit, and with the left flank being protected by a nice sort of cliffside plateau thing. Or whatever these kind of formations are called. I'm pretty sure they have a name. I mean, everything has a name, but I don't know what it is. Alright, and yeah, there's no chance that the Skaven slaves reach our lines, but once again, this is just a distraction from the enemy army, and the real enemy army has at last arrived. Still a few Skaven slaves to clear, of course, but Elspeth will start on the main enemy stack. There are a few units that we really want to drop as fast as possible. All of the units of Poisonwind Mortars in particular. So, let's start casting, shall we? A Purple Sin of Zoraeus and a Burning Head, while Elspeth drops right in the middle of the enemy army and starts moving in on those darn Plague Mortars. Plus, this allows us to use our Crown Corruption Mortis Engine effect, which does look pretty nice, although it does make everything a little bit difficult to see. I'm gonna get that Spirit Leech going on the Hell Pit Abomination and cast a few more spells as well. Here comes a little bit of Amethyst Fire support. Beta Biuna, and I don't remember where I cast it, to be perfectly frank, but I guess it doesn't really matter over much. Elspeth's having a pretty good time, and ooh, there we go. Purple Sun Rocket, I don't know what the ability is called, but it's certainly effective by the looks of it. Ripping apart a few units, the enemy uses a Warp Bomb near Elspeth, killing off one of its own, and just to try to slightly hurt her. That's a bit of a waste there. Looks like some of the faster units are getting closer to our lines now, a Mutant Rat Ogre and some regular Rat Ogres, though the regular ones are, by the looks of it, in pretty darn bad shape. I mean, this is a heck of a gauntlet you have to run to try to close the distance. And once again, keep in mind that the way I run these cinematics for Elspeth's army, since her cinematics are broken, is by not controlling the army and just trying to set it up nicely. And by the looks of it, that's working real well here. All the Rat Ogres have dropped. The Storm Vermin that were approaching with them have dropped as well. Elspeth continues causing havoc in the background and has used Death's Timekeeper, I think, on the Health Pit Abomination to dish out damage to it and to heal herself back up. The rest of our army hasn't moved, and it just keeps gunning enemies down from its very nice position. Here comes that Mutant Rat Ogre, though, and unfortunately our Ironsides are ignoring it, or were ignoring it, I should say. I see Scurry Away active, and another volley will bring it down. I guess they were ignoring it because it wasn't all that much of a threat until now. Another Purple Sun from Elspeth as she continues running around. Looks like the Amethyst Gunners are now in range of the enemy Hell Pit Abomination as well. And these rats stand no chance here, do they? Ooh, what they do stand a chance of is firing that mortar, but it looks like they decided to use it on that landship, and oh, so many guns. Beautiful, beautiful sight. Balance of power is at about 75% in our favor now. The enemy still has reinforcements to move onto the field. Got to love it when the enemy has just so many units. Looks like some of the Skaven Slave Spears managed to close the distance with one of our land ships, and that did leave one of the enemy Rat Ogres and some Clan Rats to move in as well. Elspeth still causing absolute havoc in the background, Fate of Buna and Spirit Leech alike on some Poison Wind mortars to try to get them to stop firing, while the enemy main line still attempts to run the gauntlet of Amethyst guns. And, ooh, looks like they did manage to get a charge in on the Ironclad Conquerors, who lose about half of their HP, but not enough HP to lose any models. Getting a few shots into the coming Morn from our own units, but oh well, not a big deal, as it's still more or less fine. That was a really nice position. Alrighty, well, the balance of power continues to shift in our favor a little bit more work, and I wager that the enemy army will be gone for good. The last of its reinforcements are on the field, so 40 units or what remains of them here, but, well, they're going to start running out of units or even the capability or even the off chance that they reach our lines relatively soon. Alright, and ooh, we activate that bombardment ability. It's a little bit off because of the replay desync, but well, still get to see the effect, and by the looks of it, it'll still rip apart a few units of enemy Night Runners, or those are Gutter Runners. Nope, Night Runners. Alright, do a little bit of damage to them, but, well, it was mostly to see the actual effect. There's an enemy lord hanging around back here, a Grey Seer, who unfortunately did not have the, or actually he does have Howling Warp Gale, but he doesn't use it, and he probably should have, as that was, that would have been helpful to slow Elspeth down for a little bit, but oh well. Slowing Elspeth down would have been a mere annoyance, as the enemy army failed to reach our lines and got absolutely obliterated. With that, the enemy army will shatter and will give Nagash up. Man, I wonder how many. Damn, I forgot to check how many units the enemy army has brought, but nonetheless, Elspeth did well, the entire army did well, we got relatively little in the way of damage, and the guns just fantastic. Alright, and an Armor of Destiny as a reward for that, for Elspeth has achieved her destiny, I suppose. So falls Clan Carrion, and Nagash's fortress will belong to the Empire. It will yield its secrets to the Amethyst Order, now that Elspeth is unchallenged as the Master of Death. A very nice battle, and we got plenty of work for our rocket batteries. More kills on the regular Sunmaker, but more damage dealt on the purple Sunmaker. On the other hand, more damage dealt has gold value on the regular Sunmaker. So hard to say. Elspeth got nearly 100,000 damage, beating all the artillery pretty soundly. In fact, doing more damage than all of the artillery combined, even if less kills. Very nice, or at least rockets. Let's see, we got 17k damage, 18k. The Guns and Roses, it looks like they carried the day, but it looks like everybody did well. I can't believe we kept the regular Outriders for the entire campaign. I mean, they're great, don't get me wrong, and clearly they got lots and lots of kills, many of them dishing out, getting more kills than the Amethyst Ironsides, which is kind of curious. I wonder how they managed to pull that one off. Well, either way, a lovely battle. We are going to occupy one last time Nagash. This is probably going to hurt our land ships, and a Talisman of Preserve. Oh yeah, now we get all the good stuff. Now. Alrighty, there we go. What does this landmark do? It doesn't actually do all that much, but it's, It's for the concept. Besides, complete immunity to vampiric attrition faction-wide feels very appropriate for this. So let's bid farewell to our favorite units, the Ironclad Conquerors, the Fuchsia Fusiliers, the Iron Hail, Guns and Roses, the Coming Morn, let's see, and the Ultima Oratio Imperatorum. Of the named units in Elspeth's army, we should also have a, let's see, where were the names? Oh, right, Grand Admiral Zintler had a lot of, no, who had a lot of names? Where? Oh, Eben Pfeiffer had a lot of names. Black Steel Company, Die Freischützen, and the Scythes of Morr, Swords of Midnight, Callista's Honor Guard, Ebony Thorns, more Tars, and more Wagons, more Daka, Nuln, and Void. I wanted to make this nearly this entire army to be a named army, so that's pretty good. The Rose's Thorns were the only of the Karlberg Greatswords that we named there, and I believe that's mostly it. Hopefully I didn't miss any of them, but let's face it, we have so many armies all over the place, and I can't keep track of all the names, but we encountered them many a time as we played through it. Anyway, there we go, folks. With that, this campaign comes to a close. Hope you enjoyed these 13 frickin' battles. It's gonna take me so much editing time, and our world empire, effectively. Elspeth had a heck of a run. Thanks for sticking with it all the way through. Loved all the name suggestions, some real good ones in here. I might keep a few around as well. And of course, our favorite Land Admiral, Grand Admiral Zintler, who will join the ranks of our community canon / permanent characters on this channel. More Warhammer to be had around here, SFO this weekend, so stay tuned. All glory to the algorithm, and thanks for watching.